What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 19 of the Back of the Pack podcast here on Fantasy Focus, brought to you by the Original Hooters. Ryan Levy here, as always, with my boy Alex Freeman, but we're coming at you live for the first time in the Back of the Pack history here on our YouTube channel and on Facebook. How you doing, Freeman?
I'm doing great, Levy. I'm excited to be live. We got some cool graphics here. I'm feeling official. We're coming back to real racing, and we're ditching the virtual world, and we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah, I know. I figured I'd make it official for you with these fancy graphics and all that. So shout out to Tater for producing on the back end for me here. But I'm
Tater.
Yes, I'm beyond excited, man. We got real sports back in action. UFC started fighting. We've got racing going on this weekend. So I'm very excited. So if you guys are tuning in live on YouTube and want to jump in here with the comments, please let us know. But I'm excited to win some money. We got our new partnership with Monkey Knife Fight. So if you've never played Monkey Knife Fight, make sure you guys check it out. We've got the link in the comments as well, so you guys can sign up. And Freeman and I are going to get into some of the picks here later. But post North Wilkesboro last week, well, tell us a little bit about what happened last week on the virtual course.
Yeah, so we led into last weekend with just a little bit of insight into the historical value and significance of North Wilkesboro being a race on the Pro Invitational Series schedule. So this was the last race for the iRacing Pro Invitational Series for the Cup guys. I think iRacing's done a great job, and they really came through in a time of need for a lot of individuals and provided us an outlet to gain some entertainment. So first and foremost, thanks to iRacing for being there when we need it in some unconventional ways. But looking at North Wilkesboro last weekend, Denny Hamlin took the win. So he wins first weekend of the virtual series in Homestead and wraps it up here at North Wilkesboro with another W. So he and William Byron are the only individuals to have multiple wins in the series. Both of them have histories and well-documented success on the platform. So it's good to see that experience show through and further validate this platform and iRacing series. So it was great to see iRacing on live TV and in the thick of things. But I just cannot wait to see the guys on track here in Darlington in a couple days.
Yeah, shout out to my boy Denny. Love to see him taking home the hardware on the virtual track. I'm a big Denny fan, but I'm really curious, man, to see if virtual momentum is a real thing as we head into Darlington this weekend. You see, I got my Darlington hat on. I'm fired up.
Oh, yes, sir. The throwback rope hat, man. It's a classic. I think the momentum, we've talked about it a couple weeks, and it's something that you brought up halfway through the virtual season, if you will, that, hey, is Byron going to be able to carry this momentum and winning on the virtual series into the real racetracks? And I think the answer is yes. Before the iRacing Pro Invitational Series, William Byron hadn't had a win in the Cup Series, and now he officially does. To me, I think that gives him a little bit more confidence. He's been able to experience some of the things that come along with that, and I think both for Denny and William Byron, this exposure and this success will lead to continual success that they maybe wouldn't have had if it wasn't for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see, by the way, that my boy JJ Watt was the Grand Marshal for the event?
Yeah, I had to throw a little bit of that in here, right? So a little bit of crossover from football. NASCAR's been doing a little bit of cross-pollination, if you will, and having some of these very famous musicians and athletes from other sports come in and be the Grand Marshal. And the Grand Marshal, to those who don't know it by its official name, are the gentleman start your engine guy, right? So we saw JJ Watt in his office, and he was yelling at the top of his lungs, "Gentlemen, start your engine." So it's cool to see other guys involved, and it adds a little bit of uniqueness to something that we haven't had before.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's good for the sport. I can't say enough good things about NASCAR as a whole. As a beginner fan, I would call myself. I really like when they ingratiate other athletes and things of that nature into the sport. And I think them going live this early into lockdown, basically, I think it's going to be huge for the sport because people are sitting around with nothing else to do but watch TV. And the fact that they're going to be able to watch live sports is absolutely huge. So I think it's big for the DFS community. I think it's big for the gambling community. And I think it's just big for NASCAR in general, man.
I agree, and I couldn't have said it any better. And there's so many, there's so many positives that come out of this, and there's going to be so much growth and exposure that comes out of Sunday and Tuesday and Wednesday. There's so much racing for the Cup Series alone. 4 races in 11 days. That doesn't even include Xfinity. That doesn't include trucks. So we're going to be. And when I say we, I mean the NASCAR community, everyone watching, everyone listening, today, tomorrow, or next week. We're going to be in the limelight, and it's going to be cool to be that a fan of this sport again. I think it's going to have a little bit of a revitalization, and I think that all the work leading up to this and partnering with companies like Barstool to kind of change the persona of the sport and the fan is only going to lead to more success and easier adaptation in the weeks ahead, when we are the only premier sport league in North America.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you know what that means? The demand for DFS and gambling is going to go up, so we might have to start putting out more NASCAR content than once
Yeah.
a week. Hey, if they're running twice a week, man, we're going to have to start going live a lot more often, especially when I know you nailed these DFS picks today.
Oh man, I can't wait. I'm so excited. Really, we're going to change from having all these fluffy topics to really getting into the weeds and talking about some of these, historical information and historical data, and talking about these trends and how we really break down our picks instead of saying, hey, Kurt Busch is great here. He's led this many laps. We're going to provide that analysis and dive a little bit deeper into the rationale behind the picks that we're going to be making. And it'll be fun to continue to cover the news. But again, having NASCAR back has revitalized my interest and desire just to dive in and throw a little bit of action on this and have some skin in the game.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So what do we got going on this weekend? I know things are going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff changing. So of course, with COVID, the least minimal impact is the desire from NASCAR and all the teams. So we're going to have a much different look and feel than a traditional race weekend. So before we dive into some of those differences, just looking ahead, Darlington is known for how unique and challenging it is. I mean, its nicknames are the Lady in Black and Too Tough to Tame. Like, this is a track that's been around since the 50s. And something that has been weathered by the sand and the wind. It's right near the beach. This is one of my tracks that I went to the most growing up and love it because of how unique it is. Rather than being a cookie cutter, it's more of an egg. One turn is wider than the other, and having nice, easy transitions off the curves is not present. It's more of a roller coaster drop, and they flatten out, and there's a lot of bumps. It's a very old track, so it gives it a lot of character, and why it has those unique names and why it's known to be so challenging. And if you want to make it even more complicated and annoying, add in the humidity and the heat and the sand and the grit that really complicates everything from the driver's performance to the mechanics of the car. So a lot of factors going into this, not even considering that we've been on a 70-day break from racing in NASCAR. So we have every variable possible in this bucket that's spinning around.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Now, I've always wondered why my hat said Too Tough to Tame on it. Now I've got the answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Too Tough to Tame at Darlington. The Lady in Black, she will eat you up and spit you out. So kind of looking at the races ahead, we have Sunday at 3:30 Eastern start. So for me here in Chicago, that's 2:30. So what? That's noon 30 for you out there on the West Coast. So you better be up with your mimosa ready to rock and roll.
Oh, I'll be ready. I think I'm gonna go Bloody Mary on Sunday just for the special occasion, dude.
I hear. Okay, let's do it. We'll tag team that. So, not only are we going to have a race Sunday that we'll dive into, but we're going to have back-to-back action. We'll have a race with the Cup Series on Wednesday, same track, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Again, for you mathematicians out there, 6:30 for me in Chicago, and 4:30 for you on the West Coast. So you may have to cut out of work a little bit early.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'll be studying the DFS picks, getting everything in there, hitting you up for the data, getting into it. I'm excited, man. I think we'll have a limited sample size for the first race in terms of Monkey Knife Fight, but that's certainly going to expand as the interest in NASCAR expands as well.
I can't wait. I'm blown away that even in the week since we started talking about it, we went from the idea of it being on the app to it being in front of our faces. Like, it's really cool to see these guys at Monkey Knife Fight expand into this this new arena for them and give fans like us a new avenue to be involved and play with the sport.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, for someone like me who, like I said, I would call myself a beginner fan, intermediate fan, whatever. I like to watch it live. I like to go to the events or whatever. But the fact that I can now, put money on it essentially legally from a DFS standpoint, and not even, the underground channels of sports betting, which isn't legal in all states yet. It makes it more exciting to me. I've got things to look forward to in terms of who I'm watching in the race. So definitely excited to get into that, but we're going to wait a little bit to get into that. I think what's interesting heading into this weekend, things are definitely different. There's no qualifying, none of that good stuff. So talk a little bit about that. I think that's going to totally change the landscape here.
Yeah, so generally speaking, looking back at a weekend before Corona and NASCAR, if there's a Sunday race, teams are getting there on a Thursday or a Friday, depending on how quick of a turnaround the race is. So over time, they've decreased that turnaround as a cost-saving initiative. But in the Corona era, if you will, that is going to be continued to be squished and squished and squished. So we're racing Sunday. The teams are coming into the facility on an extremely tight schedule. Saturday afternoon, everyone is screened in and out of the facility. It's extremely virtual as in the facility as well, but the tasks and the events are just extremely detailed as far as the series of events. So everything from the drivers meeting to the rookie meeting to the invocation and even the broadcast, that's all going to be virtual. So usually when the drivers go from the meeting, which is held in a tent, usually a permanent building, and they go from there to the starting grid and get into their cars. Now, all that is going to be virtual from their motorhomes. So their motorhomes are going to act as their virtual office for all these correspondents. They will then move to the starting grid 10 minutes before the race starts, get in the car. It won't be the first time for the weekend, but they'll have the engines primed. They'll make sure that the nuts and bolts are tight and the setups are as they want. But this will be the first time that these drivers are going to be making laps in 70 days at full speed at arguably one of the most challenging racetracks in the series, not once, but twice in 3 or 4 days. So this is like Talladega Nights-esque storyline to me, man. I am juiced, I'm pumped. I can't wait to get right on my DFS picks with Monkey Knife Fight, dude. I am juiced if you can't tell.
Yeah, so I guess I have a lot of questions about this. They're basically coming out cold turkey. So part of me, I mentioned earlier, I wonder if there's some virtual momentum. Hey, I just won. Is Denny Hamlin going to go take this down now after taking down Wilkesboro on virtual track? Or, do we lean more towards historical data on this actual track, guys that have dominated here in the past? And I'm wondering, are these guys, are they nervous about this? Because it's not their typical routine.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of nerves involved, especially from people like Matt Kenseth and the Ryan Newmans of the world, who are coming back into a race after very unique situations of their last races ending. One retirement, one in an extreme accident that we're grateful to even have him back. So there's some factors that we're going to have to rely on both and kind of go with our gut to make a pick. Now, I am going to value the veterans and some of the consistency over a long period of time more than recent success. So you see a Kevin Harvick, you see other drivers like Kyle Busch. These individuals have spurts of success, but a lot of recent success as well at this track. So drivers like that are going to be individuals that I look at to make bets on. I'm not sure that I would pick Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick over one another specifically at the moment. But I'm going to look at those veteran drivers to have more consistency and be individuals that I could better predict the outcome of the events.
Okay. And just to be clear, once we get into these, the only DFS contest on Monkey Knife Fight right now is Kevin Harvick versus Kyle Busch. So they're certainly making it challenging for us on the first one they're releasing. But with that being said, later this week, rumor has it, my contact at Monkey Knife Fight is telling me that more will be released, but they just wanted to throw the hard one out there first. So they're really putting us to the test. And basically the way it works is, you get 2.5 times your money if you hit both of the props there. So we'll talk about that later, but let's talk about some of the historical data. Like, who do you like coming into it outside of DFS?
Yeah, so when I'm looking at the race as kind of as your average fan, who I'm going to pick and expect to do well, really from a more recent success standpoint, if you asked me this question 3 weeks ago, who's going to win Darlington when we go back live, I would say Kyle Larson. But this, stuff happened
in the chat.
Yeah, so F's in the chat, man. So he really had a great avenue to come back and utilize his driving style to win at a track like this. But again, another wrench thrown into the mix. I'm thinking someone, honestly, like a Matt Kenseth, a more veteran driver, a Kevin Harvick. So, I think even with the 70-day break for the regular drivers, the playing field is going to be a little bit more even for people like a Matt Kenseth and a Ryan Newman. You got to remember, Matt Kenseth's coming back from being gone for almost a year, I believe, after retiring a couple of years ago. So, while he's been out of the seat for a while, I think he may be a good value pick. I don't know if he's going to be someone who's a favorite going in to win, but I'm turning to unique avenues to figure out how to win some bets here, because again, no one knows. There's a lot of unknown and there's a lot of variables going on in Darlington.
Yeah, speaking of unknowns, we haven't spoken about this yet, but I think this is the biggest curveball of all, especially for those that are gambling on NASCAR, whether you're betting on top 3 finishes, top 5, top 10, whatever, or winners. I love to pick a winner because those are usually like 700 to 1 or whatever. But 84% of winners at this track start inside the top 10, but we don't know what the top 10 is going to be in terms of starting point, because things are different. Now, this is randomized.
Yes. So it's kind of randomized in segments, if you will. So the way that's going to work is we know that the top 10 drivers will come out of the top 12 current point standings. So 1 through 12 will be randomized. The drivers in the first through the 12th position in the points, their starting position will be randomized for Sunday. The same with 13th through 24th, the same with 25th through 36 and 37 through 40. So for example, let's say that Kevin Harvick is 5th in points. No matter what position he is, from 1 to 12th in points, he can start anywhere from 1st to 12th on Sunday. Now, when we go to Wednesday, we'll have a little bit more known from the starting grid, because we will have a compartmentalized, again, inversion. So based on the finishing from Sunday, 1 through 20 will be inverted. So the person who wins Sunday will start 20th on Wednesday, and the same for the 21st to the 40th positions on the second half of that field.
Man, that's interesting stuff. Would you say in general, without any practice or qualifying and all that, that this will be a messy race? Like, are we going to see a lot of accidents?
Yes, I think so. So the track itself is known for being very hard on tires and wearing down machinery. It's a 400-mile race. It's relatively long considering the elements that are going to be at play, and it tests the machine. So you're going to have your team in the shop for the past week on top of their game to put that product on track. But you by not having the qualifying, by not having the practice, you don't really get that real life test of what that track is wearing your tires and machine, and how your how your valence and how your side skirts are dragging across the track and impacting how you're handling. So there's a lot of elements that go into this, while a system and a platform like iRacing has helped these drivers understand some of these intangibles. There's a lot of elements that are at play here that cannot be simulated in something like an iRacing.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm kind of wondering in the back of my head here, are we better off putting our chips on one of these guys? And I briefly looked at the top 12 in the Cup Series. So these are the guys that, basically are going to be one of the top 12 in terms of racing starting position, right? So is Harvick the early favorite here?
To me, I think so. I think a Harvick is someone who he has the success across multiple different eras of NASCAR, if you will, across different setups, across different time frames, to carry that momentum and success and knowledge of the track forward. If you look at someone like a Kyle Busch, while they have had recent success in the last couple of years, there's been spurts of inconsistency. And what that makes me believe is that certain components within the card and the package didn't play well to his skills. So when I compare his finish over his career to Kevin Harvick and see Kevin Harvick's more consistency, that makes me believe that Harvick has a better general knowledge of the intricacies of the track. No matter the package, he knows how to wheel that around the lumps and bumps and cracks in the track to get the response out of his car that he wants. So I'm going to rely a lot on that, and seeing these individuals' success over many iterations of the vehicle, of the NASCAR, to carry them into success on Sunday. Because again, a lot of unknowns. If they can rely on their good and strong knowledge of the track, I think that they can then be very communicative with their team and get the right changes for a race that will arguably have the most change from start to finish in recent history.
Okay, that's good to know. I feel like after Sunday, it'll be much easier to predict Wednesday's race. You know, we'll
so.
have a lot more to go off of, probably anyway.
Yeah,
I'm eager to see, man. This is going to be messy.
Everything's probably, dude. Everything's maybe. Everything's we don't know, and that's what I love. So to kind of to hopefully pull back the unknown. Really, when I'm looking at my picks and insights, not only am I thinking about who I want to pick, I'm also thinking about who I want to avoid. And when I'm looking at some drivers that individuals may have picked for recent value, I'm going to steer clear of the Kurt Busches and the Clint Boyers. These are guys that both you and I have had success with in gambling at certain tracks, but I'm not going to play with these guys at Darlington because they have very volatile relationships with the Lady in Black.
Okay, that's good to know. You know, I love the historical data, so I will be avoiding these guys like the plague.
Yes, but Wednesday, TBD. They could impress us Sunday and change our mind. We don't know. So for Sunday, I'm going to avoid them. For Wednesday, we'll let you know. So and looking ahead to Eric Jones is someone who's had a number of recent starts there. While he doesn't have a number of starts like Kyle Busch's and the Kevin Harvick's, he does have a recent win. He has some consistency there. He has the backing of a strong team in Gibbs and Toyota, much like Kyle Busch. So I look for him to be a good value pick in a matchup, maybe against one of the top tiers. I would consider Eric Jones in the second tier, third tier of these racers. But if he's up against one of these top tier drivers like a Logano, maybe I would pick Eric Jones just for his consistency.
Yeah, I'll have to, as we get through this episode here, I'm going to pull up the odds to see who the long shot people are. But I do, I love a good sleeper too. So
yeah, and I'm always looking on sleepers, right? We in our past, I was listening to a couple of old podcasts to figure out who I was favoriting. I was looking through our notes, man, and I was always talking about Michael McDowell being someone that is a good value bet, and maybe some matchups if you're lucky enough to get him. But that's someone that I'm going to avoid like the plague. That guy hasn't had a lead lap finish at this track in his career. So it's just, again, one of these tracks that just, it defies conventional wisdom, and people who can turn, subpar machines into mid-pack finishes just cannot finish the deal here. It is a challenge.
Okay, good to know. I just pulled it up here, so I'm going to run through a few of these real quick before you give us some insight on some of the other guys that you like. But so Busch is the favorite, Kyle Busch at plus 550. Kevin Harvick is also at plus 550, and they're both plus 140 to finish top three. My boy Denny Hamlin plus 700, so he's the third favorite to win, plus 185 for top three. Truex Jr. plus 750 to win. Slowy Logano plus 800 to win it all, plus 225 for top three. My boy Chase Elliott, Hooters represent, plus 1,000 to win it, plus 275. Eric Jones, you just talked about Eric Jones. So he's plus 1,400 to win it, plus 375. I kind of like those odds, plus 375 to be a top three finisher.
I like those Chase Elliott odds to win too. You got to remember Elliott is so Elliott got wins here in the Busch Series in very convincing fashion, in very hard fighting, charging fashion too. So he knows how to wheel this track. He is an old school driver, and I like his odds of not only winning but finishing top three. Again, Hendrick Motorsports, Chevy backing. Very, very robust resources. That is going to mean more now than it did weeks past, and that attention to detail is going to really push one of these drivers across the finish line before the others.
Oh yeah, I was pretty big on him last year, so maybe it was just a Hooters. I was looking through Hooters goggles there, but I love me some Chase Elliott. But
Oh, he's going to have a great year this year. I'm excited for Hooters to get back in winner's circle again. They were actually a big part of the sport back in the 80s and 90s with a couple different drivers. So it'll be cool to see them be back at the top of NASCAR in the very near future.
Absolutely. Now I'm about to blow your mind with some Ryan Newman and Kenseth numbers because I know you mentioned them briefly before. Ryan Newman to win. Now, wouldn't this be a story? Ryan Newman comes back and wins plus 10,000 to win, plus 2,500 to be a top 3 finisher.
Wow. I just put $5 on it to say what's up. That's something that's just a good story. I would love anything to do to make that happen. We can talk it into existence. We can bet it into existence. That's what would be awesome.
Would you think NASCAR was rigged if he comes out and wins?
No, I want to watch more.
Kenseth he's plus 2,800 to win and plus 700 for a top 3 finish.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember whose car he's in. Kyle Larson's, the person who wheels and deals at tracks like this where you rim ride and you're leaning on the wall. So again, veteran driver, top tier equipment. Chip Ganassi was on the up and up of recent. I mean, you're convincing me Kenseth of a top 3 now, man. You're going to sell me on it.
I mean, plus 700. What's not to like there? I mean, if you're rolling with deep pockets over there, you throw $100 on a top 3 finish. That's $700 in your pocket.
Hey.
I mean, that's good money.
Yeah, that's a good night out.
You haven't been going out. You've been saving all this cash, sitting in quarantine, watching iRacing. Now you got real racing going on. Throw $100 on Kenseth to be a top 3 and win yourself 700.
Got to spend money to make money, Levy.
That's right. That's the motto that I live by, brother.
Yes, sir. So one cool thing that I kind of wanted to throw out here, I don't know if we'll be able to pull these little tidbits out a lot, kind of a beat your bookie thing, but I think there's a real way to beat your bookie this week. So if you look at a lot of historical data, you can catch someone sleeping. Bowman and DiBenedetto have terrible historical averages here because they were in back marker cars for a long time. So if you happen to have to scroll across a bookie or someone somewhere up in a hut who does not know of recent trends and don't know of Bowman's increase in equipment as well as DiBenedetto's, you may be able to get a bit more value out of these guys at certain places. So they are back in top tier equipment, and I think someone like a Bowman is going to have a nice top 15 finish. He won't be at the front, won't be at the back, but look for Bowman and DiBenedetto to have decent finishes.
All right, so I love that. I'm gonna chop that up and put it on Instagram so people can get a little snippet of that because I love beating the bookie, if you will. But
yes,
I have
him sleeping.
Right, I have the hardest time saying DiBenedetto. I have a
Yeah, DiBenedetto. His nickname before we all learned how to say it was D Burrito. All the real hillbilly folks down there in the Southeast couldn't pronounce all those letters, so D Burrito was a little bit easier.
All right, well there you go. See, I'm a good old boy from Florida, so I'm gonna start pronouncing.
I'm a good old Carolina boy, so you know it too.
So his odds to win though, D Burrito plus 4,000 and plus 1,000 for top 3.
Again, he's in a Penske car. He's in a Wood Brothers vehicle. He's in the same equipment or similar equipment to Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and shoot, I'm blanking. Not Ryan. I'm thinking Ryan Truex. Ryan Blaney. There we go. So he has the support of some very strong manufacturers, and I think DiBenedetto will win this year. I don't think it'll be at Darlington, but I think he will get a W this year.
Okay, cool. And just to touch on Bowman real quick, plus 1,400 to win and plus 375 for a top 3 finish. So the betting population or the bookies out there, the bookmakers, I should say, definitely are leaning Bowman over D Burrito there.
Yeah, and if we talk about virtual momentum carrying over here, man, Bowman was someone who did not have high expectations in iRacing, and he came away with a win. So, that could be big for someone like that, especially who hasn't been in, the top car for 10, 15 years, someone who is still on the up and up and rising in popularity and skills and success. So still some momentum to be had there.
Yeah, absolutely. Any last minute advice for people that are, betting on NASCAR this weekend before we get into our DFS picks?
Yeah, simply don't be fancy. I like being fancy at other tracks, but you can't be fancy at Darlington. There is nothing fancy about this track. It is just raw. It is right in your face. It's a cheese grater shaped in a circle, and it doesn't take any prisoners. So it's going to be a hard-fought race this weekend and on Wednesday for the Cup guys, as well as the Xfinity Series earlier in the week. So don't be fancy. Go with the gut. I think these veterans who have the consistency again across the different iterations of cars and aero packages and downforce are going to be the ones who prevail because they have the best knowledge of the track and are going to be able to wheel whichever vehicle into the winner's circle the best. So keep your eye on that.
Okay. All right. That's good advice, man. So let's get into our monkey knife fight picks. Now, if you've never played monkey knife fight before, it's pretty simple. Just go on to monkeyknifefight.com. Actually, there is a link in the comments or in the description of this video. So go ahead and click on that. If you deposit $50, you'll get a $50 deposit bonus with our link, or just enter the code FOCUSED. So to keep things simple here, the first contest that they have released is going to be Kevin Harvick versus Kyle Busch. So basically, if you were to buy in, you can buy in whatever you want. If you want to do a $5 contest, you want to do a $20 contest, you want to do a $1,000 contest, whatever you want. If you hit both of these right, in terms of more or less for both drivers, you win 2.5 times your money. So pretty simple here. But let's start with Harvick, shall we, Alex?
Yes, sir.
Let me explain the rules though. So when we say more or less, Harvick, his fantasy points are set at 16.5. The points are made up of every lap led, they get a 10th of a point, right? If you finish in first place, you get 20 points, second place, 19, third, 18, all the way down to 20th place where you get 1 point as well. So that's a lot of math, man. I know you took the time to do that. So give us your thoughts on Kevin Harvick. Will he have more or less than 16.5 fantasy points?
So when I'm thinking about these points, Levy, I'm looking at some historical data again, like we talked about earlier, and really going to rely on, it's considering the current situations, rely on those veterans who rely on them more so, who have had the success over these different iterations. So someone like a Kevin Harvick has led a lot of laps in a lot of different cars on multiple teams with different manufacturers at Darlington. So I'm thinking conservatively, if he leads 50 laps and finishes ninth or better, he can achieve, I think that's a 17 points. So that would be more than 16.5. So I'm being conservative on the laps led because I think that he will finish higher than ninth. So assuming that he leads anywhere from 50 or more laps and finishes in the top 5, we're going to blow that 16.5 out of the water. So I'm extremely confident that Kevin Harvick will be able to beat that 16.5 mark. And I'm going to be, like I said, more confident in this number at the moment than I may be over the next one.
I love it. That makes a lot of sense to me. So this is where it gets interesting here. So now we'll move over to Kyle Busch. His is set a lot higher here. I guess a lot higher. Yeah, 2 points higher is a pretty significant amount of points here in retrospect, right? But 18.5 points for Kyle Busch. Your thoughts?
So before even seeing this 18.5, when you were telling me we were going to be doing more or less, I was looking at other scoring systems and thinking maybe his target would be in that 18 or 19 range, just based on how other sports score. And I don't know. I don't think that he's going to be able to really. It's hard to rationalize. In my gut, I don't feel like he's going to be here and ready to go. He is a very unemotional driver. He is a driver that is a really strong momentum driver. So I think in order for him to win this, he would have to lead a majority of the race, 100 or more laps, something he's done in the past, but something I'm not sure if is capable right now because of the current situation and all the unknowns. Because Kyle Busch, the reason he is so good is because he gets a lot of practice. He gets a lot of time to communicate with his team and his engineers and his people who translate his words into success in the vehicle. And I think that the best drivers are going to be the ones who get impacted the most from not having this practice because they're so used to fine-tuning that vehicle with their team on a weekly basis. So, again, Kevin Harvick has that experience over all these vehicles and allowing him to really harness that unknown a bit better, when Kyle Busch has had some spotty finishes in different eras of NASCAR, if you will. So, I'm going to prefer Kevin Harvick in this one and go with more for him. I see Kyle Busch scoring in that 17 to 18 point range. I'm going to go with my gut and say lower.
Okay, I like it. So to make things a little bit crazier, they threw us a little bit of a curveball here. They added another one. They did Kyle Busch versus Denny Hamlin.
Oh.
Now, Denny Hamlin's is set at 17.5, and I don't have a fancy graphic for you for Denny Hamlin, even though he's my boy. If I had known that headed in, I definitely would have had one for Denny Hamlin because I love this guy. But quick math on Denny Hamlin. I do
what
like
was the number?
17.5.
Okay.
So right in between these two guys, they're making this tough, man. This is legit. So to recap real quick for those that are just tuning in or just listening or watching live, Harvick, we're going to take more than 16.5. On Kyle Busch, we're going to go against the grain on the favorite to win here, and we're going to take less than 18.5 points, correct?
Yep.
And what do you think on Denny Hamlin, though, at 17.5?
Oh, that's hard, but because if I'm comparing the three, I think Kevin Harvick is a winner of the three. But if I have to pick between a Denny Hamlin and a Kyle Busch, I think Denny Hamlin is going to have more success achieving 17.5 than Kyle would at 18.5. Denny is another veteran driver who has had a lot of success at Darlington in multiple series across multiple iterations of the car, and this plays to his style. He is used to being in victory circle here, and again, I think this track plays his strengths a bit more. So I think that one's going to be a lot closer than the Kyle Busch. Again, I'm going to go less with Kyle Busch. I'm going to go much more than 16.5 with Kevin Harvick. This is a toss-up, man. Gun to my head, I'm going to say more for Denny Hamlin. I think his laps led are going to put him over, but expect a very average finish for him.
Okay, I like it, man. I'm a Hamlin guy, so I'm rooting for that. I'll take the over on Denny Hamlin any day of the week, even if they set it at 20. I'm taking the over.
Over. As long as his daughter doesn't grab a remote and turn off his car, he will be good to go.
Right? Life's too short to bet the under, buddy.
That's right. Unless it's Kyle Busch. See ya.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I'm looking forward to it, man. This has been fun. Any last words of wisdom headed into Darlington?
We got a lot of racing coming up. I'm excited. We're going to have a lot of racing in a short period of time, a lot of attention, a lot to talk about, a lot to get excited about, and a lot to bet on, and a lot of time to get familiar with Monkey Knife Fight. So I'm excited to have those guys a part of the pod and a part of Fantasy Focused and just a part of the team. It's going to be really fun to play something new and be involved and share it with all of our buddies and friends.
Absolutely. I'm just going to be blindly tailing you on all these picks, right?
I won't tell anyone if you don't.
I appreciate it, man. It's been fun. This has been episode 19 of the Back of the Pack podcast here on Fantasy Focus, brought to you by the Original Hooters in partnership with Monkey Knife Fight as well. Look forward to the live race this weekend and see you guys sooner than later now that we got racing back.
Yes, sir. We're going racing.
Let's do it. See ya.
All right.